I've been doing some more Go cardio. I mentioned last week and last episode that sometimes when I am doing cardio, just on the elliptical or whatever, I pop up my Sumego app onto the machine and I try to do some Go problems while I get my exercise in and kill two birds with one stone. And the stuff I mentioned last time, it still rings true. Like this past week, I was doing some Go problems while I was doing my cardio and noticed that it revealed a lot to me how my brain works while I do these problems and what kind of energy it needs. Because I noticed that when I was reading out branches to solve these Sumego problems, as you're supposed to read, whenever I would run into a dead end on a branch of reading where it wasn't the right solution and didn't work, I would have to stop trying to read and just run for a second or let my brain stop reading for a second and just reset for a while before I can get back. I could not read branch after branch like I might do if I was just sitting at a desk and just looking at the problem. I had to reset. I was just kind of like at the end of the branch. I was like, okay, I'm done. I can't read anymore. I need to like go back and just like, I just couldn't do it. And I'm wondering like how like being under that stress revealed that this part of my brain is a finite resource. And so I'm wondering if there's a best, like optimal, efficient way to use that brain energy to read out problems, especially in games as well. So I'm wondering if there's some insight there that that I could get from my experience of doing Go while doing exercise. Because if anybody tries it out, please let me know, because I'd love to hear your experience with that. I feel like it's a unique experience for sure. The other thing that I've noticed, and this is something I've noticed before, just kind of off to the side, but when I read, but especially while I'm doing cardio and reading, when I don't have as much focus and I can't like seem to harness that energy as well, it really helps to not look at the problem that I'm solving while I'm reading. Sometimes this concept of visualization pops up while reading. People talk about how to best visualize the stones, and we think about how when we're reading a sequence, the stones tend to disappear. And the more I experience reading in general, the more I feel like reading really isn't about our eyesight. It's not really about, because imagine like you're blind, right? Imagine you're a blind person playing blind Go, like literal blind Go, like with a Go set made for blind people, with like one of the stone colors marked with a little bump and the other one just completely smooth, and you have to feel the entire board. How do those people read? I'm sure they can read as well. And it's not necessarily going to be black and white stones in their heads. It's going to be maybe bumps and smooths. But I think that Go, it's not necessarily a visual processing task. You might disagree. I mean, it seems on first glance a very visual thing, but from my experience, when I try to read, I can look away and just feel the logic in my head without necessarily seeing colors. Does that make sense to you guys? Or am I just sounding kind of like a crazy person? I don't know, because I noticed that when I was doing cardio and I was trying to do these Sumego problems, I would find it easier to work on the problems if I was able to store the problem in my head and just think about it without having to look and check. I think there are two things going on. You're like looking to see what information the problem has, and then there's a second part of your brain going like, okay, now how do these stones interact with each other, and what would happen if I did this and that? And that first part, it's really just like a surveying kind of process. And once you have the information, you don't really need to always be looking at it. You can have it in your brain. And the better Go player that you are, the more you're able to find shorthand for these thoughts and go, okay, that's just a little snapback interaction over there. This is like a squeeze right here, and you can just kind of think of the sequences as little bite-sized concepts that you can store in your brain, whereas a beginner may store these things as like black stone and then white stone and then black stone and then capture and just have everything in a very inefficiently organized manner. So anyway, maybe I'll do an episode on that if I think of like more things to talk about. But you're listening to Start Point, the show about Go for Go fans, away from the board. Thanks for being here. I'm so glad that you're here listening to all this stuff I have to say about Go. And today I want to talk about The Devil's Plan. I finally watched the full season with my wife, and it was great. If you don't know, let me just do a quick overview about what The Devil's Plan is. It is a Netflix reality competition show for like brainy problem solving game people, is the best way I could put it. They kind of cast a range of professions and personalities. Typically something a little brainy, like they'll get like a lawyer, and this season, the season 2 had a board game YouTuber actually. They have like a poker player, like a poker professional, right? Things like those. And they also have like the boy band, stars and the K-pop idols coming in for the publicity too. But generally speaking, they cast a lot of really brainy problem-solving personalities, the ones that really like to get into the nitty-gritty, take notes, and think about a problem, chew on it, and spit it out. That's the kind of person I am. I love riddles that just keep me up at night, like, and so I really enjoy The Devil's Plan. And the thing is, the games that they play are also very brainy. So brainy, in fact, that I think that's the number one reason maybe people wouldn't watch The Devil's Plan, is if you tried to watch The Devil's Plan and they got into the first game that they're all about to play and they start explaining the rules, they do not go easy. They do not do the babying of the American audience that you get on the West. They have rule after rule. They get very specific about how the rules work, and they just kind of throw them at you. Now, the contestants, they get a paper copy of the rule so they can study it, and then they can kind of like get into it. But when you just kind of hear how the game is played, you're like, okay. Oh, there's more. Oh, okay. And then if that happens, okay. Oh, okay. And then it just keeps going. The rules explanation is quite a long thing. But anyway, they're very difficult games, and there's a lot of smart people on the show who are competing with one another for the prize and eliminating each other. And obviously there's some social kind of aspect to it to up the drama and tension of the show. One note of praise I have for the show that I think makes this show so interesting, and it's that other shows, like this kind of show where they have eliminations, like the Survivor type archetype show, it really always depends on getting other people to like you and team up with you and kicking other people out through voting. Voting is the main mechanic I see in most of these shows that come out. And not that there's none of that in this one. There's definitely a lot of like, political manipulation and getting people on your side and teaming up to kick other people out. But the thing is, it's not with a simple vote. You have to do it through the mechanics of the game, so it's not always a sure shot to do that. Even if you have like the people in power to support you, you still have to play it out in a strategy, coordinating your people against the other people. And so I think I like that a lot about The Devil's Plan. It's very game focused, and they don't baby you. And I highly recommend the show. Especially to the audience that I'm speaking to right now of Go players who like games. It's a lot of technical stuff, and it's great. Okay, so why am I talking about it, though? I mean, it's relevant, semi-relevant, but mostly because, well, I mean, I've mentioned this in a previous episode, but there's someone very, very important to the Go world in the second season of Devil's Plan. And it's none other than the Go master Lee Sedol, or Lee Sedol in Korean. And Lee Sedol, I mean, he really needs no introduction, but he was the last Go professional to defeat the top level AI of the time. And that was obviously through the AlphaGo series, where he won Game 4. And he's just world champion who reigned in the 2000s, known for his sharp and creative style of play, contrasting with the previous Korean dominant professional Lee Chang-ho, who was known as the Stone Buddha and was known for a very conservative and even boring style of play. But Lee Sedol is very, very well known in the world for a Go player, but in Korea, he's another level. And this show really illustrated that, because he appears on the show, and the way they introduce the show, I mean, there's going to be mild spoilers for the Devil's Plan. I won't say who won the competition or anything, or really mention many of the names, but I just want to give you guys a heads up. There, I'll talk a little bit about some of the games lightly, but probably nothing really big. But anyway, the beginning of the show, they introduce the cast members one by one by letting them all like trickle into a common room where they socialize and introduce each other. And when Lee Sedol walks in, it's different. It's not like, there's like YouTubers and K-pop stars and celebrities. There's this guy from Super Junior in there and stuff like that. And everyone's like, wow, you're here. Wow, that's amazing. I'm a big fan. But when Lee Sedol walks in, there's a different level of presence. And it's pretty cool, because everyone is like, I can't believe he's here. They're just kind of like starstruck by this guy. And it's really... it's great. It's great, because as Go players, we love to see that, right? There's really no one like that in the US, not even for the chess world, I think. I mean, because who's the most famous chess player in the US? It wouldn't even be like Fabiano Caruana, who is like the strongest US chess player, but I think Levi Rosman of Gotham Chess is even more famous. And then if he walks into a room, some of the chess people will geek out, but if you're not a chess person, you'll probably just be like, oh, I think I've heard of you. You're like a YouTuber. And like even Magnus Carlsen, he's Norwegian, wouldn't have that presence, I think, in a reality show. And if Lee Sedol walks into that room and is just completely recognized and idolized by everybody in the room, it's like, there's a different level of respect there. So I thought that was pretty cool. And overall, Lee Sedol in Devil's Plan, I was kind of worried about, how they say about you should never meet your heroes, and I wasn't sure how he would behave and like what his personality was really be like in this show, in a very kind of unfiltered. It is filtered, obviously, cut and edited by the team, but in this context, you don't really see Go professionals. You don't see them do things like this. They're just 99% of the Go professional interaction you get is they're sitting at a Go board and they're just like stone-faced looking at it, and then they kind of make a grimace, like, and then the commentators are like, oh yeah, he's not feeling good about it. And it's just like such a small, minimal experience. And then even in the interviews, they say like, yeah, I prepared very well. I studied very hard, and my opponent was, gave me a very challenge, and it was very difficult. It's not anything of anything, any substance really. And it's like that with like a lot of things, especially in the professional sports world as well. They're media trained. They just got to say what they got to say. But this was like an interaction where Lee Sedol would be caught up in drama, caught up in the competition, and there was candid cameras everywhere. And I wasn't sure how I would feel about him after this, but after I watched this, I thought, I really like this guy. I really like Lee Sedol, and I'm really happy with how he represented the Go community in this game. He was such a respectful player, and I think one thing that he was able to do very easily, it looked easy to him, that other contestants weren't as able to do, is completely divide the game playing aspect versus the human and ethical aspect of this show, and separating and splitting those two apart and treating them each very intensely and respectfully, able to go into the competition and give it his all and respect his opponent enough to use his brain to try to figure out the winning moves of the competition as best as he can. Even in the social aspect of the game, there's some social aspect of the game, you can't ignore it. And even in that part of it, he was able to give it his all. And yet, there were some very human moments where he had a self-sacrificing attitude, where he refused to beat down on anyone who was kind of, he didn't want to kick anyone while they were down. And a lot of people, when they go on these shows, they have a lot of difficulty splitting those two sides of themselves up. You see people who kind of ignore their human side and they say, it's just a game. It's just a game. It's just a competition. And whatever I do, it doesn't really count as anything ethical or moral. So I'm just going to do it. And I'm just going to do this. I'm going to backstab. I'm going to do this. I'm going to lie. I'm going to cheat. Well, it's just a game. And to a certain point, they're right. It's a game. They all agreed to go on this show to compete with each other for the prize money. It's a competition. On the other hand, there are people who completely cannot let go of this emotional aspect of the show, which is like, how can I betray any of my friends? Like, I gave them my word. How can I ever lie? How can I put myself above anybody else? And that's also kind of true. Like, you should be selfless and you should be kind of like kind to others and think of the benefit of others. And yet that causes you to lose the game or make bad decisions about the game. And yet Lee Sedol walked that line so nicely. I felt like, oh man, that's a real professional there. Not just a professional of the game that he plays, but a professional of knowing what it means to play games as a human being. And so I really liked his presence on the show. I really think that I won't spoil anything past that. But he was I liked him. I just liked him. He's a cool guy. Let's leave it at that. Another thing I want to talk about today, besides Lee Sedol's presence in The Devil's Plan, is a particular game. As you know, Devil's Plan is a show about brainy games, strategy games. Not that there's any that they've gotten rid of luck. There's actually a lot of luck involved in these games, but they're very brainy games, and you can kind of outsmart your opponent in a lot of the games. And one of the games introduced is very, very apt to talk about on this show, and that is Wall Go. There's literally a game called Wall Go in this show, and it's one of the highlight games. There are two kind of highlight games in the show. When I say highlight games, they're like treated as like, well, the thing is they leave these games out in the common room, and the players get to mess with them, and they realize, oh, there's some challenge with this game involved. And one of the games is Wall Go. The other game was Knight's Tour. If you're a chess guy or gal, you know what the Knight's Tour is, and it's just this pattern on which a knight can travel to cover all the squares of a chessboard. And that was one of the challenges, to kind of memorize or figure out how the knight can cover all the squares without going to the same square twice. But the other game was Wall Go. Now, Wall Go is a variation on Go, and it's not really like Go, but it's also very like Go. And it reminds me of one of Lee Sedol's board games, Great Kingdom, which I talked about in a previous episode on Go-adjacent board games. Lee Sedol has designed a few board games of his own, and Great Kingdom was kind of like the most Go-like board game I think that he designed. But Wall Go, oh man, it's very simple and actually quite fun looking. When I watched them play, I could sense that my Go brain started acting up, and like wanting to play. It's played on a 7x7 grid. The squares, not the intersections, and you'll see why later. And this is played with 3 players or 2 players, and they had these 2 versions of the game. The 3-player version, each person only gets 2 stones, and a different color stones at that. 2 stones each, and they only place those stones in the beginning of the game when they place the initial stones. So what they do is they take turns placing one of their stones. So player A takes their turn to place 1 stone, then B, then C, and then they go in reverse order to make it fair. So C places their second stone, and then B, then A, and then the game is set up and ready to play. And so you see so basically what we have here now is a 7x7 grid with 6 stones on it of 3 different colors. And on your turn, you move one of your pieces either 1 or 2 spaces. And by moving 2 spaces, you can move back to your original spot. So like going a back and forth movement. The only movement rules are that you cannot go into another occupied spot, and you cannot go into a wall. The walls appear after you've made your move. You place one of your walls on any of the adjacent spots next to your stone. I guess it's not really a stone. It's like a wood chip, so maybe I should just call it a piece. But you place a wall in any adjacent spot next to your piece, and then no one can go through that wall. And the game is over when all of the pieces have been divided into their own territories. I'm not sure if 2 of your pieces share the same territory. I think the game's still over because like those are still your territory anyway. But the final thing is, the final scoring is that after you've divided up all the territory, you just count who has the most territory, and then you win. And that's really what makes this go, right? Because the territory aspect of the game. And so what you get is, in summary, a game of players moving their pieces around 1 or 2 spaces, placing walls, and continuing to do so until enough walls have been placed that the colors have been separated and sealed into their own zones. And whoever has the most territory wins. One caveat. Each player gets 1 wall breaker ability. So anytime during the game, each player can break through any given wall 1 time for the entirety of the game. And obviously you can't break the wall and then go into a space that is already occupied. But if you're trying to go to a space and the only thing is a wall in between you and that space, you can break the wall and go through. That's like a special ability that each player has. Then there's the 2-player version, which is like a duel, and there's just some slight modifications. Again, 2 stones each, except the first stone has been placed already, kind of in a cross-game Go format. So you have like adjacent stones kind of alternating in the square, kind of in a vague corner area. And then they place their first stones, and then wall breakers are not allowed, and that's it. That's the same thing. Pretty cool. When I was watching this game play out, I could definitely feel my Go senses come into play. And when they were playing, I immediately started thinking, that's a good move, that's a bad move, that's not a good idea. Obviously, I'm not like an expert at wall Go. I have never played it, but my Go instincts automatically told me a few things. Like how corners are still important in wall Go. Why? Because you can control a space along the corner in the same way as you do in regular Go. And I think that is not the most intuitive thing to understand about a game like this. I think, anyone who's taught a beginner or taught several beginners at Go will tell you that when they first start playing, a lot of them are attracted to playing stones in the middle of the board. For some reason, it's just attractive. It's just Tengen is pretty cool, right? You want to put your stone there. And I think some of the players fell into that trap of like, oh, okay, I think the middle is a good spot because like I want to be king of the castle and I want to take up that middle spot. But no, it's better to kind of have an area of the board that you want as yours and then expand that area. And I think that kind of applies in Walgo as well. So even as they started placing their first stones, I was already making commentary on it. One other aspect of Go, and this isn't just Go, but maybe chess as well, but the whole time pressure thing, there was a time pressure aspect of Walgo in Devil's Plan. You needed to place your wall 90 seconds after you've played your move, or a wall will be placed at random in one of the qualifying spots for you. And I thought that was an interesting punishment. I guess that like sometimes it could be advantageous not to place any wall, and so they had to force a wall on you. But imagine that applying to Go, where if you ran out of time, instead of you losing a Byoyomi period, you just have a stone placed at random for you. That would be kind of funny and interesting. So Walgo, I would love to play it with someone someday. Many of the other games that I see on Devil's Plan, when they explain the rules and they start playing, I am scratching my head like this is very difficult and I have no idea what to do. But for this game, I actually felt like I had somewhat of an idea what to do, and I actually saw these competitors play these games and like was able to see like, oh, I think that's a bad move. I think some of these moves that they're playing, they're quite bad. One of the contestants actually froze up and time pressure, was not able to cope with it. And so being a Go player would definitely give you an advantage in playing Walgo, in my opinion. And I would love to know if you guys watched The Devil's Plan and if you saw this part. I want to know what your thoughts are on the game. And if you want to play Walgo, it's simple enough to play just by drawing out a board or using a 7x7 grid and some M&Ms or something. But I actually found a website that has like an interface to play Walgo. You can play with a friend or a computer. So I'll link that in the description if you're curious to try it out. I'll make a final comment on some of the gameplay in Devil's Plan. Reading, I think, is a core skill like that is transferable to other games. And if you're someone who's played chess and gone to Go, or vice versa, I think you'll have felt this, that the thing that transferred over is reading. And there was a game that everybody was watching in The Devil's Plan that involved turns and taking turns and reading ahead. You could see Lee Sedol was 2-3 steps ahead of everybody else. They would start catching on, but then Lee Sedol was like, no, you guys are a little behind. And he was able to see the implications of each move instantly, whereas the others took like some processing power to get there, and they needed some hand-holding to get there. Lee Sedol was like, no, if he goes there, then this will happen, and this will happen, you could see his brain activate, and I could also feel my brain activate as like a Go player myself, being able to look at moves that they were playing and understanding what would happen if what possible things could happen after that move, and then after that move, and after that move. So I think reading is a core skill, like an abstract game skill. And I think we should pay more attention to reading, because reading is good for you. You know, there's something I really like about watching beginners learn how to play Go, and watching that process of growth and journeying through the game and figuring out what works and what doesn't. I think that's really interesting to see, and I would have loved to see just one moment in The Devil's Plan where Lee Sedol actually plays Go with somebody, or even just two randos playing Go with one another. I thought that would have been so cool. So that's a bit of a spoiler. No actual Go in The Devil's Plan, but still a very entertaining show. But now it's time for the DDK Advice Corner, and the tip of the day is train your discipline. So discipline is a really important aspect of the game. I think at some point while preparing for the wedding, I got busy and I lost discipline. And it was showing in my correspondence games. I stopped reading and I just started playing moves that kind of looked like they would work. And it's kind of hard to catch yourself doing that until you get punished for it. So train your discipline. Make sure you are consistent with the practices that you employ. That means making sure you read out your moves and pausing to think and try to find a good move. It doesn't have to be a perfect move. Sometimes we get overwhelmed by the task of finding the best move possible. But as long as you put some amount of thought into it, it's better than nothing. So train your discipline, and now it's time for listener mail. Buzzsaw writes, "This is Buzzsaw. I am writing in for the first time in a long time. My claim to fame is that I am the first female lifetime member of the American Go Association. My AGA ID is number 8, which is always a source of surprise to my new opponents when slips of paper are provided for us to fill out at the US Go Congress." I'm well aware, if you're someone who frequents the Twitch chat comments and things like that, you may have run into someone by the name of Buzzsaw, who is in fact AGA ID number 8. And I think I would be very surprised to see that. I'm wondering, does the AGA number every person by the order that they joined the AGA still, or did they reset the system somehow and then there's some other meaning to the numbers? But that is really cool. I'm wondering who number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are, but that is a really cool claim to fame. I'm writing to say that on July 9th, I started to listen to Starpoint episodes for a second time from the very beginning. My intention was to listen to every episode before your return for season 3 after your wedding and honeymoon. Congratulations. Thank you so much, Buzzsaw. Thank you. Since you are reading this, that means that I have been successful. I've been a big Starpoint fan from the beginning, and I looked forward to binging the episodes for an experience different from waiting a week for each new episode to come out. That's crazy. I could never have expected somebody to listen to all the episodes in a binge session, not only for the first time, but for a second time. So I applaud you for that. And I feel like you probably know more about what I've said than I do. So there's that. There's another claim to fame. After listening to episodes 1 through 26, I realized that it would make it more meaningful for me to take notes. I regret not doing it from the beginning, and I eventually did cycle back to take notes on the first 26 episodes, which happened to be much better than the notes I took early in the process of re-listening. Well, with those go habits, I'm sure you can make progress if you were to apply that to your games and reviewing and making notes on every single lesson that you've taken. I bet you've got quite the regimen. I decided to share my notes as I took them in the general channel of the Starpoint Discord. Some of my notes inspired comments from others. I made a friend and became energized to keep chugging along with my listening. My notes consist mostly of things that I found particularly interesting as I listened. I sometimes also comment on episodes. Those comments appear between parentheses. Some episodes I have not bothered to take notes for, but that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy listening to them again. It's all good. I saw you kind of like posting notes into the Discord, and it's very interesting to see you write about stuff that I talked about in the past, because I totally forgot so much of the stuff. I haven't looked at it all in detail, but I think I will, because it's quite a nice document of the episodes that you've done. I really like your Discord server, by the way. One area I am going to have to keep away from, however, is the listener mail channel, assuming it gets used. Listener mail is my favorite part of the podcast, and I want it to be fresh for me when you respond to it. So I am going to keep my distance from that channel for now. Well, no one's been using that channel yet, so you have no worries there. People still been mostly writing in email form, so that's secret. But if you want to avoid the YouTube comments versions, then yeah, you gotta stay away from YouTube. But yeah, I like the experience of going through listener mail, and it's nice to know that somebody else out there also likes to hear the listener mail with me. Here are my impressions as I listened to Starpoint a second time from the beginning through the end. There was no listener mail at the beginning for the first few episodes. I missed it and was wondering when it would finally show up. I was wondering, actually, I forgot, like, when did I start doing listener mail? For some reason, I thought I'd started doing it right away, like episode 2 onwards or something. But that's so funny, I don't remember. I like how you started to encourage it with questions of the week. Episode 6 brought us the first listener mail. Wow, that's crazy. Like, I didn't even know that about this show. As I listened to the rest of the episodes, I ended up being surprised at how seldom I have contributed to listener mail myself. That may change in the future. I only remember you contributing one other time. I mean, you can tell me better than I can, but you'd have to remind me. I had forgotten that Go News had officially existed as a regular feature. I will admit that I haven't missed it since you stopped trying to include it every week. I say that as a 9Q with little interest in pro activity. Yeah, I felt it was kind of interesting to do for a while. I liked being kind of caught up with the pro world to some extent, but there is like a lot of work involved in scouring Asian news articles and often having to translate them to figure out what's going on. And it was kind of it was a heavy load, honestly. So I figured I would kind of lay that to rest. And although a couple people expressed that they missed it, I think there are a lot of people like you who are not as interested in the whole pro scene. It would be nice if Gaza and, not to pressure them, but it would be nice if Gaza and Xiao Dai would start up their podcast again. I would definitely be interested in that. But I remember when I went to the tournament and interviewed a bunch of people at the tournament and asked who their favorite Go player was, many of them didn't have an answer, or they would struggle to name one or even two. So yeah, a lot of people like you, I think. So I'm kind of glad that you don't miss it. My favorite parts of Starpoint are the DDK Advice Corner and listener mail. I like the main parts of the episodes too, of course, but for some reason I really enjoy the responses of your listeners and your responses to their responses. It's great to hear you interacting with the community. I've said this before, but that's actually my favorite part too, just listening to you guys talk about Go and talk to me about Go. It's what I consider it to be is a slow motion Twitch chat. So like a week delay of responding is what I'm kind of doing here. I try to respond to everybody, and luckily, they're still manageable. And I've gotten some really long and insightful listener mails, very interesting people writing in, and it's really fun, and I'm so glad that you enjoy it as well. DDK Advice Corner, I try to make up something every week, so I'm glad you enjoy that as well. It would take too long to mention all of my favorite episodes. There are many favorites, and anyone who is interested can read my impressions from the screen captures of the notes that I posted to the general channel of the Starpoint Discord. It will be obvious from that which episodes engaged me the most. One episode I really want to respond to is episode 82, Study Plan Workshop. I actually tried to draft something a couple times right after the episode, but gave up because it seemed to be too daunting a task. I also thought that my circumstances would seem unrealistic to most. I'm retired, have all the time in the world, and I have 3 Go teachers. I've come to believe, however, that your listeners might enjoy hearing what it might be like to be a retired Go student. So I've decided to end this epic listener mail with my response to episode 82. Before we go on, that's why I'm looking forward to retirement. That's one of the reasons. I got a long way to go, but when I retire, I will have a lot of time to play Go. And it's just like the perfect retirement activity. Just sitting there with your Go board, studying and getting better and reaping the benefits. It's like, it's such a good way to spend your time, I think, when you have so much free time. So that's awesome. Let's hear what you have in response to episode 82, and you say, here we go. This is in response to episode 82, Study Plan Workshop. I'll share my study plan, but first, a bit about my Go experience. I am a retired high school art teacher who is devoting my retirement to studying Go. I played my first game in 1970 and spent the next 25 years trying to force friends and family to play the game. I failed miserably, as I'm sure it would go. Yeah, that's how I'd expect that to go. But I applaud the effort. I discovered Go on the internet in 1996, and my life changed. I found other people who played not only online, but eventually in real life. I attended my first Go Congress in 1997 and have been to as many congresses as possible since then. I was lucky to retire at a fairly young age in 2007. I've been retired for 18 years now, and I've started my retirement by writing a Go blog called Enriching My Love of the Game. I deliberately avoided a title that had anything to do with a quest for improvement. My blog has been on hiatus for about a year now. I have resolved to devote the remainder of my life to the game of Go, and especially to the Go community, which has become my social life in retirement. That's really cool to hear. I actually have read your blogs. I mean, obviously not the entire thing, but I was like watching one of your study sessions with one of your teachers, whether it was Glacius or Benkyo or whoever, and I don't know, I somehow stumbled upon it, and I thought it was very interesting how much you document your journey, and it was very fascinating to read. So just wanted to let you know that I've known about your blog before I even started Starpoint. In 2014, I stopped taking lessons with my first Go teacher, Yilun Yang, who I had been studying with off and on since 1998. That's an epic teacher, by the way. If you don't remember, Yilun Yang is the author of the The Fundamental Principles of Go, which is a fantastic book for fundamental principles. Continuing, that began a period of about 5 years when I cut back on Go activity and directed my energy to quilting instead. It was in 2019 that I got more serious about the game again. Oh, I kind of like did a re-energization in 2019 as well. I attribute my renewed interest to joining the American 연구생 도장 after attending In Sung Hwang's lectures at the 2019 Go Congress in Madison. COVID hit in 2020, and I discovered Clausius teaching on Twitch and started lessons with him in 2021. I had taken lessons with a pro, and I decided to give this AGA 4 Dan a try. After a year studying with Clausius, I added Benkyo Paduk to my stable of teachers. I finally added back Yilun Yang in 2022 as well. Wow, that's amazing. It was shortly before the first actual Go Congress since COVID hit. I realized that I would see Yang at the Congress again, and I was feeling a bit as if I was cheating on him with my two new Go teachers. It wasn't the best reason to hire another teacher, but it was the time to bring Yang back. I owe my knowledge of the opening to Yilun Yang. He took me on as a 19Q and brought me to 9Q over the course of 15 years. Wow, I'm so curious because I don't think many people have that experience that you do, and I'm wondering, and I'm not to stir anything among the teachers, but I was wondering if you had any particular insight into things that teachers may disagree on and things that teachers do differently. Maybe not, I don't know, you don't want to, put anyone on blast for anything, but I'm curious about the different dynamics that you have, like with your different teachers, and what has worked and what hasn't, and I'd love to know more about that. What does a week of Go study look like for a retiree with 3 Go teachers? Scheduling is important. I schedule my lessons at regular times and frequencies. I also schedule Sumego sessions with friends at regular times as well. All times are Eastern time. On alternate Mondays, I have a 90-minute lesson with Yilun Yang at 3:30 p.m. Mr. Yang has the uncanny ability to play a teaching game with me for a half hour, review it for an hour, and end exactly on time. He gives me the feeling that he has covered all that he wanted to cover in each lesson. Every Thursday afternoon at 3 p.m., I have a 90-minute lesson with Benkyo Baduk. Ben tends to run into overtime with me because he has so much to share. If you watch any of his NAOL review sessions, that's North American Online League review sessions, you will see that he gives more than the 20 minutes he is contracted for per game. Alternate Fridays, I have a 2-hour lessoning with Clausius. My lessons with him used to be streamed publicly, but recently I've become a little self-conscious, so I have started taking them privately. All 3 of my teachers are reviewers for NAOL, the North American Online League. Yeah, I don't know. I think I would also feel a little self-conscious having my lessons streamed. I think some people may find it fine and maybe even good. But knowing, like, having your teacher expose all your mistakes in front of everybody else is kind of like, I mean, although the Go community is a little nice, it is really nice and just will not really, harass you for it or anything. But yeah, still, it's just kind of like a mental thing. You kind of need a little mental space to work out your problems. I meet 2 times a week for 1 hour at a time with a small group of friends to do Sumego. We meet at 3 p.m. on Tuesdays and 8 p.m. on Fridays. Wow, that's so fun. Like, you actually meet up to do Sumego? That's crazy. I would have never thought that there was enough Go players interested in doing that to actually have a session like that. I could barely meet up to actually play Go. My main failure as a Go student is that I don't play enough games. If I had to play on the fly, I would almost never play, so I schedule games. I force myself to play by joining leagues. I play in the NAOL and also in the Go Magic League. I try to schedule those games on LeGo at the default times whenever possible. When I play in the BenQ League, I schedule those games in advance using Calendly, which I have found to be very useful not only for BenQ League, but also to schedule alternate times for my other leagues when my opponents are unable to play at the default times. I will admit that I have developed ranked anxiety specifically related to my BenQ League rank, so I'm not playing in the main league currently. However, I continue to play in the title tournament of BenQ League. I participate in interactive BenQ study group classes 3 times per month on Saturdays at 10:30 a.m. EDT. You can see that I'm taking your advice about scheduling time for Go, but I could schedule more things. I don't review my games as much as I should. I could schedule that. Having so many Go teachers, I can count on getting most of my games reviewed by them. However, it would still make sense for me to review my games ahead of my lessons. That way, I can remember my games when they're being reviewed by my teachers and get more out of the reviews. I have added 2 new recurring Go events to my calendar. At 8 p.m. on Wednesdays, I will play a slow Fox game. At 1 p.m. on Thursdays, I will review my slow Fox game. Baby steps. That's good. I think that's definitely a good start. Like, just a once a week thing is like the easiest way to start a new habit. For me, I don't think I ever really like scheduled like at this time I'm gonna do it, right? Even for recording Starpoint episodes, I generally record a week before the episode is released, but I don't, it's not like a hard and fast rule for me, and I just kind of try to find the time to do it. But when I played Go, I would be like, okay, I'm gonna play before I go to bed, like every day. That's like what I did for a while, like every day before, like, or after I showered. Like, I would do it like after I shower. After I shower, I'm gonna play a game of Go, right? That's what I would do, and it's just like a very casual thing. And sometimes that works for people. Other times people want more rigid schedule. Other times people want more chaotic schedule. I probably need to do something like that to start playing again, because I haven't played since I got married, and I've played some correspondence obviously, but that's the kind of thing that would get me to play. Just be like, oh, I'm gonna start playing on this time at this day, whatever, right? And yeah, baby steps, right? Like that's the way to do it. I don't play rated games on OGS anymore. It has been nearly a year since I played a rated game there. I should schedule a time for 1 rated game a week to start. I'm a member of the Internet Go School with Guojuan. I should schedule a specific time for doing my space repetition problems to avoid losing vacation days when I forget to do my problems before the end of the day. I take lots of lessons, but something I'm not doing enough of is reviewing those lessons and taking notes from my lessons. I should schedule time for that too. Yeah, I don't know. I think that sometimes we take lessons and we get lessons from people and we assume it just kind of soaks in. to your brain and you're like, okay, I received the lesson. But like I mentioned before, when you take a class and you attend a lecture, you not only have to attend the lecture and listen and pay attention, you have to go and do homework. You have to do work and review your notes and do the readings and review them again and again. And especially, even the readings, when you do a reading, you can't just read it and then you're like ready for the exam. You have to read it again. You have to take notes. You have to review and understand everything. And so that's definitely an important aspect of maximizing your learning in your Go lessons. Something else I should be doing is creating problems in AI Sensei based on the feedback from my Go teachers. I could go back through my 5 years of League games and from AYD and create problems in AI Sensei based on Insong's feedback. I think that's American 연구생 도장. Okay. I've been on vacation from AYD for a year, but I do intend to return eventually. It seems like you got a lot of stuff and a lot of ideas to be scheduling. This is what always gets me as a Go player. It's like, how do you best manage your time the most efficiently to maximize improvement? Okay, one thing I don't seem to need to schedule is my solitary Sumego practice. I enjoy it a lot and I turn to it at odd times during the day to do a few problems at a time. I don't seem to have a problem getting in 100 easy problems on most days. For harder problems, I schedule the occasional Sumego lesson with Ben Kyobaduk, where we work on 8Q problems from 101 Wei Chi with him, forcing me to read and talking me through the problems. I've also scheduled Sumego lessons with Clausius, where we work on level 4 problems from Sumego Dragon, and Clausius forces me to read as well. Ben and Clausius control the screen during those lessons, so there is no premature clicking. Yeah, that's a big thing. It's like when you're doing Sumego problem, and if you're kind of just clicking around and just trying to, you don't hold yourself as accountable as you could, it can really dampen the improvement on it. Another thing that I should be doing is attending Go Club. The Princeton Go Club is about 20 minutes away and I have no excuse for not going, except that I haven't figured out parking and walking to the club yet, and I need to do that. My husband has plans to accompany me to the club until I feel comfortable enough going on my own. Go Club will give me a chance to have face-to-face interactions and touch the stones again. It will also give me a chance to make new Go friends. Wow, for somebody who I perceive as someone who has Go really well integrated into their life and values the community aspect of Go, I'm surprised that you don't actually attend a Go club. I guess it's very convenient to just be online. That's what I'm like, but yeah. I mentioned not playing enough. I used to play about 10 games a week to satisfy Clausius. He actually wanted 20, but he has come to realize that 10 is more reasonable. Oh man, you made your teacher bend to your will. I am currently only playing about 3 games a week, and that needs to be improved. But yeah, that's a debatable point. Not everyone thinks that you gotta play 20 games like Clausius does. It can be medicine for certain people, but some people need to spend more time reviewing their games. Some people need to spend more time playing games. But like that cup or the pottery analogy that I made in one of the episodes, where they had the students make as many pots as possible, and then their clay pot, the best one, or the poundage of the amount, the volume that they made, would be the grade that they got, like if you reached a certain amount of weight. And then those students turned out to be better than the ones who were focusing on just making the best ones. So there is some truth to that volume thing, but Buzzsaw says, the verdict on my study plan: I have a lot of Go activities scheduled, but I could schedule a lot more, especially things that I can't seem to make myself do on the fly. I'm going to start working on that. I'll also continue to look for other things I should be doing. I might start tracking the time I spend on Go activity again using the iOS app Now Then, and that may lead me back to blogging. Thanks for giving us Starpoint. It is a beautiful gift. I'll write again sometime soon, but not quite so much next time. Your biggest fan, Buzzsaw. Well, that was very sweet of you, Buzzsaw. Thank you so much for writing in and for listening and enjoying the show. I'm so glad that you enjoy it, and I really enjoy hearing about all your Go scheduling. And I would love to hear more updates about how you've been moving around your scheduling for Go training in the future and what you found works best. I'd love to hear you share your wisdom and knowledge about that. And thank you so much for your listener mail. Tyrannoton writes, I sat in silence for about 10 seconds, then it clacked. Hane. I'm sure most of you are lost. This is about the joke from the episode that Tyrannoton commented on. It's the one about why... What was the joke again? Like, what? Why shouldn't a Go player like shake up a beehive or something? Was that it? Because there's death in the honey. It's death in the hane. That's an idiom or like a Go proverb. Death in the hane. Anyway, Tyrannoton also writes, I have a question. I don't own a board yet, but I want to buy one. I'm selling a few things to get one, so I'll have around $600 Australian. Do I go for a compact board or a full-sized floorboard? Okay, with that kind of money, you do not go for a compact board. Oh, wait, hold on. I don't think you're saying like a 9x9. You're thinking like a table board, right? That really depends. I think that just depends on what you where you prefer your Go board to be. I think table-sized boards are more practical. You can move them around wherever. Floorboards are like if you have a dedicated space in your house where you feel like, or your apartment, wherever, where you feel like a floorboard makes sense, or if you just really like floorboards, like get a floorboard. But I would be satisfied with just a table board. A thick one though. You should get a thick one. I absolutely love the floor style as a centerpiece to a room. I have a 2-year-old and would love for this to be a nice visual impression for him to grow his curiosity. Thoughts? Oh man, if you've listened to the episode I talk about this, where my dad randomly brings a floor goban to the room, it definitely made an impression on me. So if that's a reason, then yeah, I guess like, I don't know, just get the board that you like, the one that you love, that you know that you'll use. I think that's, what I would do with that money. I don't know. I think I need to go shopping. I think you have to go, when you go for a floorboard, they're pretty pricey, aren't they? And you might have to go used, right? I don't know. I think 600, I don't think you can buy like a nice, like new, right? So thinking about what you can get for that money, I think what would make a bigger impression on your child is if they see you actively using that board as much as possible, rather than it just being that old thing over there in the corner that I don't know what it's for, but my dad uses it, or like that kind of thing. So I would say whatever you're more likely to use, but yeah, those are my 2 cents on that. I must have read your name wrong at some point, because your name is Tyrone Van Bakel, and I must have said Tyrone Evan Bakel, and so I apologize for that. Sadaharu writes, using gardening as an analogy for Go is new. It's interesting and maybe good for people who like gardening, haha. I think analogies can help to teach people, and it's also very useful in fiction to make the story more interesting and make people relate to the game. There are a lot of analogies in shogi mangas, probably because it's easier to make them. After all, shogi and chess are about capturing the pieces and killing the king, whereas the objective in Go is more subtle. I think one analogy in Hikaru no Go was when Hikaru said that the Goban was a universe and he wanted to be the god in the universe. Personally, I'm more used to the war analogy. You mobilize your army to occupy territory or rob the opponent's territory, maybe sacrificing some troops in the process. So yeah, I think, obviously shogi and chess, although are abstract games, they are not as abstract as Go. So Go is a little more flexible in an analogy world. So it's not as easy to make the analogy right away, but there are more analogies to make, I think, with Go. And I think that everyone has, like I mentioned in, I think the last episode, I talked about that one listener mail who talked about like how they re-saw and they reshifted their paradigm of how they saw the game based on how they view tanukis. Like that, there are a lot of different ways that people have to process the game in an analogical manner. So different analogies may work for different people. So it's nice to have different versions. I always thought about the roots thing, and that's why I had to share that episode. It just came out when I was thinking about how to play and how to make bases and things like that. By the way, I asked AI to give an analogy for Go, and it talked about forests and ecosystems, very much similar to your seeds and roots analogy. Oh, well, I'm no AI, but that's pretty cool. Thanks for writing in, Sadaharu. Tojo Nightmare says, hello, I wonder, were you saying before that you're interested in Go variations? Because I believe I found an interesting one. I'm always interested in hearing about more Go variations, so if you have one, please share. Gideon, Godion. I think your name might be Gideon, but then your username is Godion because, Go. You chatted me on OGS and you said, consider this a listener mail, and I was hanging on to it, but OGS doesn't save your chats and I lost it, but I know what you said. You mentioned that you found my blog and that it would be interesting to read from it at some point for an episode. Actually, a couple of my episodes have been based on a couple of the blog entries. The first tournament episode, I had to reference that because my memory was fresher back then of what happened, things like that. So I might go back and dig through it and make an episode out of it. I'm glad you found it interesting enough that I might want to make an episode on it. Thanks for writing it. Pink Radish says, I'm a new listener and new to Go. I'm enjoying your podcast. Congratulations to you and Kim. She sounds lovely and sweet. I'll make sure she hears that because she loves hearing that. I've only started learning to play 4 weeks ago, but I think I'm already aware that my big problem is I have extremely low spatial cognition. In other areas of my life, this manifests in inability to read maps, very poor with direction, hard to memorize or imagine anything visually. When I see myself in the mirror, it is hard to coordinate my movement with the reflection I see. Oh, okay, very interesting. In Go, this problem manifests in inability to memorize positions of stones on the board and in relations to other stones. While people might have problems replicating multiple stone positions on the board, it takes only 2 stones on the board to confuse me. I try to address this issue outside of Go by trying to do these IQ test type quizzes on mental rotation. There are not many fee and specialized resources for this. It will be a steep uphill battle for me, unfortunately, but I think I will stick it out even if I'm going to always be the worst player in the world. Well, I like a lot about your attitude here and that you're determined to play Go even if it makes you the worst player in the world. That's very admirable. Okay, but here's the thing. You're quite a new player. You said you've only started learning to play 3 to 4 weeks ago. And to be honest, everyone at that stage has low spatial cognition in the Go world. It's actually really, really difficult, and it takes a long time to get used to thinking about Go stones on the board, and 2 stones can definitely be confusing to a new player. And you may reinforce the idea that you have difficulty with this because of your other experiences with the maps and the direction and things like that. I actually have really bad sense of direction. When I go into like a plaza, when I drive into a plaza and then I do my business in there and then like I come out of the plaza, I have no idea which direction I came from, and I go the wrong way all the time. I don't have necessarily all the things that you've described, but like I mentioned earlier in this episode, I have said that I don't know if Go is such a visual, spatial game all the time. I mean, there's some aspect of it for sure, but imagine this. Somebody who is dyslexic, somebody who doesn't know how to read very well. That doesn't mean they can't understand the concepts being described to them when they actually are able. They have a hurdle, right? They may not be able to read things as fast as you because they have some inability in that regard, but that shouldn't really actually affect their ability to understand the concepts and the literary devices being used in the novel that they're reading. Maybe they can go and try to find audiobooks, and that would help them. And so there are ways around things that we may struggle with. But I would say, okay, here's the thing. If you play Go for 3 to 4 years instead of 3 to 4 weeks, and you've noticed a stark difference in your ability to learn the game versus other people in a similar spot playing 3 to 4 years, I mean, there's a wide range of skill, and a lot people will range anything from still at 20Q to multi-dan level right after 3 to 4 years of playing. But generally speaking, you'll have a better sense of where you'll stand at that point. Then come to me and say that you have poor ability to, visualize things. Instead of, I would say for now, instead of focusing time on these visual quizzes, mental quizzes and things like that, focus on actually playing Go and trying to experiment with the stones, do some really easy problems, find the easiest problems you can find. But since you have the attitude of not really caring that you're bad and you want to keep playing, I think you're going to do fine. But anyway, I'd love to hear an update at some point. Welcome to the community. Thanks for listening to Starpoint. Another Sadaharu comment from, I think this is a different episode. I missed some comments from last week because I had a lot of listener mail. Nice to hear your fiance on the podcast. Some of her reactions to the questions were very familiar, lol. Congrats on the wedding and enjoy the honeymoon. I've already traveled to Japan in June, so I won't be going anywhere in summer. I guess I'll spend my time clearing my OGS games and playing some live games. Well, thank you so much for the congratulations, and we really did enjoy our honeymoon, so thank you. My boy writes, excited for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And then Tyraniton here comes again. I finally up to the final episode of season 2. So excited to be here ready for season 3. What an incredible journey. I'm actually considering starting over, as when I started listening, I was a brand new player to Go. It would be interesting to see how my views on the game have changed. Wow, that's another person trying to thinking of starting the entire thing over. I gotta listen to my own podcast at some point too to see like how I've changed. I would like to offer some advice for playing with Kim. My wife recently started playing with me. I told her that rather than being on a leaderboard or having a rank to worry about, she simply starts with 4 handicap stones on a 9x9 board. As we play, we record the point difference, and when she beats me a couple of times, we move to 3 handicap stones. This gives her a mental that she is ranking up by removing handicap stones and checking against the score history. She recently went from 3 stones down to 2 stones and has not been able to beat me, but gets very close occasionally, which is great to see. I hope this helps and encourages more gameplay. It feels nice to have progression, especially if you don't want to do it online, as progression can be very rewarding when it is visually accountable. That's very true, and I think that, I don't know, is your wife very competitive with you? Because my wife is. I was playing Mario Kart with her, and I didn't let her win. I didn't shell her. I didn't blue shell her, but she got blue shelled, and I just simply drove past her, and I won. And she got upset that I did that. So I don't know if my wife's on a different level of I don't know. We'll see. I'll pitch the idea to her. Yay! And then you say, "Yay! You read my comment. Haha! I'm not gonna miss out on the season final. I just hit episode 40, same as Kim. Come on, Kim, support your future hubby. He's a super smart cookie. Only 54 episodes to go." Oh man. Yeah, I'm gonna tell her. I'm gonna tell her she needs to listen to more episodes than that you told her, because she's not gonna like hearing that. And I gotta tell her. I gotta give her the good and the bad. So thanks for writing in, Tyraniton. Plixic writes, "This was funny because it reminds me of talking to my wife about Go. I just get a blank stare and a laugh when I ask her if she gets it." Yeah, what is this? What is with these spouses who are not into our hobbies, huh? Whatever. I'm not into a lot of her hobbies, so I can't really complain. Spiros writes, "Basically, congratulations on your wedding. Wishing you a life full of joy and happiness. For the summer question, I'd say I'm from Greece, and this year I'm coming to vacation to Los Angeles and Las Vegas in August. Congrats on the amazing work with the podcast. Keep it up. By the way, since you're starting this new chapter, may your marriage be like a game of Go. Strategically placed stones lead to a winning connection. Well, thank you so much on your congratulations and the little Go advice. I love that. And we actually considered going to Greece for a honeymoon, but we heard that it's very, very hot in August. And our time in Portugal is actually pretty nice. The weather was really, really nice. I hope you enjoy your time over here in California and up there in Nevada. It's been kind of hot over here too, though, so I hope it's not too bad for you. But thank you so much, genuinely. Thank you, everyone who has contributed to the listener mail thus far, and for everyone who has listened. It's now time for the question of the week. Have you watched The Devil's Plan? What did you think of the games? What did you think of Lee Sedol's presence in it? If you want to share your thoughts on that question, or if you have anything else Go related you want to share, leave a comment wherever you found this episode, or email me directly at starpointpaduk@gmail.com. That's starpointbaduk@gmail.com. If you're a listener on YouTube, I would greatly appreciate a like and subscribe. By the way, you can also leave a comment on our Discord. So just join the Starpoint Discord that is in the description. A lot of people are chatting away over there. If you're podcast listener reviews and ratings also help. A special thank you to James B., Tristan, Jeff H., and Tyrannoton for supporting Starpoint. If you want to support the show, go to ko-fi.com/starpointpaduk, that's ko-fi, or check out the Starpoint store at store.starpointpaduk.com. Another listener mail joke. What do you call it when you burn your waffles? What do you call it when you burn your waffles? Some ego problems. Some ego problems. Yeah, I get it. Some ego problems. I wonder if there are. I don't know if ego is a thing everywhere else in the world, but some internationals may not understand. Ego is a waffle brand. But anyway, it's funny how you apologized for this. This is by Jonah, and Jonah said sorry for this, and you know what? I'm also sorry. I'm sorry for all the Go jokes that I gave out to you guys. But some of you like them, so thanks so much for listening. Keep playing Go.